Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Make Love Easy
Mm.
podcast, where we help ye entrepreneurial men, successful
Mm.
men in dating, relating, and mating. I have a gift for you all today. It is this lovely lady in front of you watching the video or the giggles you heard on audio. Uh, Amber, thank you for being here. You're
I'm so pleased to be here.
awesome. Um, so we finally found our way in. We were in the green room for some time looking for the proper perfect path to activate people through our conversation. And there's this obsession we are talking about between men's minds and the wide variety of what to do and how to do it and when to do it. And
Mhm.
you had this really amazing expression of like, it's less important. And it's so funny. I say this in business too, because in business, people are often resisting what tactics, what strategies do I use? Or
Yeah.
what niche do I choose? And the answer eventually becomes it doesn't matter what you choose so much as that you choose. So
Mhm.
that's the high level like perspective around action and performance, right?
Mhm.
Fire, aim.
Yeah.
And there's a subtlety here, which ties into what will make you all, speaking to our listeners, social rock stars and having an
Mhm.
awakened identity and your really your sexual health and vitality. It's like the overlap between so many of what we teach here. And yeah, so you said it's not about what you say, it's about where you say it from. Could you
Mhm.
tell me more about what that means to you?
Yeah. Um, so when I work with men, there's so many different factors that come into how you date, when you date, how often you date, what you're dating for, the outcome you desire. There's all of these different factors and facets of the experience that changes over time. A man dating when he's 20 is different than a man dating when he's 50. So, what this phrase means to me is that with the vast array of dating strategies out there, from the dating profile all the way to sexual negotiations and the whole gamut in between, is that it often matters less what you say. It's more about where you say it from. Meaning, are you saying the thing that you're saying to this woman? You have a woman in front of you, or you're connecting online. Are you saying the thing from the head? Are you like strategizing and having all of your like numbers and things fitting into your little graphs and charts and everything in your head, all the things that you've learned, all the classes that you've taken, all the embodiment practices and plant medicine journeys, and all these things? Are you operating from the head? Or are you able to drop into the lower region of the body, the lower chakras, which energetically are located around like the perianal region and the groin, down in that like low pelvis area? Are you able to breathe into that and speak to this woman? Especially, this is especially potent in person. Are you able to speak to her from that place? Because then she's not only hearing what you say, she's feeling what you're giving out. She's being impacted by the way you feel in your body, and her body's going to orient around that.
So this is great. Um, it points us in a direction. I'll say that when I started with a version of this awareness, with a
Mhm.
seedling of this
Yeah.
awareness, what I would do was I would take, 20 almonds, 4 Brazil nuts, Timothy Ferriss's Triple Your Testosterone
Yeah.
Diet, Shura, ashwagandha, um, uh, velvet deer antler, like the kinds of things that would increase the intensity
Yep.
of sexual responsiveness in my nervous system so that I could feel my cock speaking. It would be louder than my head,
Yeah.
which is kind of a dangerous thing because really your head is telling you how to it's changing the nervous system
Mhm.
functioning in order to artificially create a louder sexual desire or that area of the body speaking, which to me, or for me, led a lot of the times to people who weren't really good for me emotionally, but were highly responsive sexually.
Right.
And or they were highly responsive to my responsiveness to them.
Yeah. 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 Turned on by your turn on, which is
Yeah.
a beautiful thing to be able to do, but sometimes it can go right.
Yeah. And so there was
Mhm.
this whole world in dating that opened to me when I was like, all right, if I can just get in my body and in my cock and speak from my cock and convey even through touch and
Mhm.
words,
Mhm.
like the sexual energy that was being sparked. I think it was Baudrillard who
Mhm.
said, as a French philosopher, he said, you can't ever seek to seduce unless you've always already been seduced.
Mm.
Like, like, like I'm already magnetized by her feminine radiance. It's just
Yeah.
manifesting as my heart on.
Yeah.
And so this leads to the conversation of the danger of a heart on without a heart on.
Mhm. Well, I mean, one of the most potent, or some of the most potent currency for the feminine is attention. So if you want to take it like down to brass tacks, very general, currency for the masculine is respect, currency for the feminine is attention. So as long as that can kind of flow back and forth, unfettered, that can really feed the relationship and the connection. And a part of that attention is attunement. And so if you are doing what you were doing and you're like really focusing and bringing a lot of attention to the clarity of the cock and like what the cock says and what the cock wants, there may be and become imbalanced in heart and head. There may become an imbalance of your attunement. So you may not be able or have the capacity to attune to her where she's at,
Mm.
and then you may override something and then the connection may fall apart. And this is like early when you're first connecting with somebody and everybody's kind of on their best behavior and all that stuff. There's more room for or there's more capacity for playing with these energies once a connection is established. But in those beginning stages, if you're connecting with women who are in tune with their body, they're going to pick up on that, the lack of attunement. And it's going to be something that holds them back from you. And so, working on, and this can be everything from um, like plant medicine journeys. It can be inner child work where you bring your heart back online, where your heart can shine and it can be open and have room for any type of experience. Um, and then having your head, having your logic, your clarity, your clarity of mind, your sharpness, your discernment, and then have the cock, like this primal kind of strength and ability to penetrate. And if you have all three of those energy centers online, this heart, cock, mind coherence, that's the most beautiful, most potent for me way for a man to engage with the feminine. And it's potently felt by her.
This is such an astonishingly powerful distinction.
Yeah.
And I mean, I must have heard it somewhere before you, but you're the first one for whom it landed with me as like a lightning strike. And so there's so much to mine there because there's the practice of it in the moment. Like
Hmm.
it took me the better part of a year to just put my hand on my heart, breathe in, and listen to what my heart was saying. Took
Yeah.
almost nothing to listen to what my cock was saying.
Yeah.
Took almost nothing to listen to what my head has said because I studied philosophy when I was younger. That was my whole job was to be up there and be really good at it.
Yep. Yep.
So I see that there's layers and levels to the awareness of this distinction. There's like in the moment, if it checks out through all the checks and balances, through all the
Hmm.
what is
Yeah.
it? The
Exactly.
executive branch, uh, the judicial branch, and the fuck, what's the
Uh, like military branch.
legislative? I don't know. Yeah, we're looking at the human as a government, right? And so I'm thinking to myself, well, when someone is head-centered,
Hmm.
we talked about this head-centered former client of yours last week,
Yeah.
and it reminded me a lot of me back in the day.
Yeah.
And we talked about, there's this whole period of when I was Casanova, and during that period, my heart was covered by my head,
Hmm.
and my cock was covered by my head and my heart. Or excuse me, my
Mm.
cock covered my head and my heart.
Mm. Okay.
So what ended up loudest in the moment that I thought I was responding to was my cock, when really I was
Uh-huh.
just ignoring my head and my
Yep.
heart. So my head
Yep.
seemed to be pointing me somewhere, and my
Yeah.
heart was like it would come out in spurts. And I would be like, do I want to be polyamorous or monogamous? Like I seem to
Yeah.
want love, but my and I even wrote a post as recently as last year. It said, no, 2022, excuse me, my monogamous heart, my polyamorous cock.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah.
And so for
And
some,
that, if I were to read that, I would be like, there's an incoherence there that's not being addressed. So somebody, meaning head, heart, cock, is looking for something that it's not getting. Um, but when I work with men, and I work predominantly with men in coaching, and priestessing is the term I prefer. I think it encompasses both the scientific and the physiological, as well as the esoteric and metaphysical, and that's my happy place, is to sit in that spot. But when I work with men, for the most part, when you break it down to those three energy centers, just to focus on to begin with, typically there's one that leads, because that's the one that usually early in life, that's the one that was given the keys to the bus in order to get the outcome that was desired. And usually that was validated in some way early in life. So whether that's validated by parents or teachers or coaches or girls or boys or whatever, it's validated at some point, and so you lock it in. You're like, yep, that's where we sit. And on the other hand, I had one beautiful client of mine. He was very cock forward, so very primal, very confident in that aspect. And it got him what he thought he needed for a while. And then after a while, it stopped working, or it stopped being as fulfilling. And what we discovered in my work with him, and in our work together, and his courage and his deep excavation, was that when he was young, he had hurt his brother on accident. Little boys playing together, and he hurt his brother, and he was so overwhelmed with the shame and the love and the guilt that he closed his heart, and he went on with life from that little boy into manhood, into relationship, into adulthood, into business, into all these places. And he was a kind man, but his heart was, he was not in touch with his heart. And so he tended to attract women who didn't want anything to do with his heart, because it was offline. And even if they did, he didn't really know how to access it. So our work together was to be consistently asking, where is your heart in this moment? Where is your heart in this moment? Just to kind of like, it's almost like, it makes me think of like those old push lawnmowers where you have to yank the chain to
yeah.
start it. And we had to like crack open his heart a bit and realize, at some point your psyche did this to protect you, and it did a beautiful job. It did exactly what it needed to do. It protected you, and now you can be complete with that protection, and therefore enter into connections and relationships and dances with other humans where all of you is welcome. And he has since found a partner who, I've met them both since our work together, and She actually gave me a hug and cried as she held me because she thanked me so deeply for the work that we did together. Because that coherence, that logical mind, tender, strong heart, and strong, impactful, penetrative cock, like I can't even describe to you how like that is manna from heaven for the feminine. And we rejoice when we feel it from a man. It is, we rejoice. Mm.
So much resonance with that story. Like I was just like, what? Because I hurt my brother when I was young, and it led
Yeah.
to me being afraid of hurting someone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I distinctly remember a theta healing session in 2020 with my business coach where we pulled that out because I couldn't allow myself to be successful financially because I couldn't allow myself to be in a space where I could just play because I might hurt my
Hurts a
brother
little.
that I love.
Yeah.
And it also tied into like some previous childhood trauma where my mother judged me to be dangerous, like my father who had abused her. And
Mm.
so all of which to say, I think what's going on is like at any time in the life of any person, their head, their heart, or their cock may close or
Mhm.
disengage from the integration of the system.
Correct.
And in my case, I saw as I look back, it wasn't so much that I was being led, and this is my contention. My contention is that the heart is the strongest and deepest. The
Mm.
heart is actually, I mean, if we look at neurologically, there's a
Mhm.
stronger electromagnetic field for the heart than for the head.
Mhm.
I don't know if there are neurons in the cock, but I'm open. I know that there's
Yeah.
neurons in the gut, right? So maybe there's neurons in each of the chakras. We may find out
Mhm.
at some point scientifically. And in my case, I led from the cock to the extent that my head was choosing to deploy it to try to get what my heart wouldn't admit to itself it needed.
Mhm.
So I wasn't
Yeah.
really being led by pure primality. I was being led by my ego's attempt to choreograph and map its way into and this is where the book starts is my former partner and I we were um, taking the nutrients of a deep, nourishing connection from each other under the guise of a casual sex container that was very
Mm.
clean and clear and well articulated and like this is who we're here and what we're here for. And so I have a great deal of skepticism of anyone, especially in this day and age when we're domesticated and programmed to people please, sit down, shut up,
Mhm.
don't listen to your heart. Don't even imagine that your intuition embodied in your heart is the primary form of knowing, and you don't even
Mm.
need your intellect in the way that you think you do.
Yeah.
Like in this world, hookup culture, my concern is that most people who think they're operating from primal sexuality are really just operating from ego that saw a pathway to get what it needed. And that if we do
Mm.
enough healing work to restore people to their capacity for sexual self-sourcing,
Mhm.
and also removing the trauma that has the mind so loud that the heart will then become a clear, pristine, ever available source for clear intuition in choices of when, with whom to make love and how. And anyway, so it looked like there was some things that you had there, though.
Yeah, I I'll say I agree to a degree. I do think the heart, especially in the modern age, is usually the thing that is the most repressed, especially for men. And that's been something that's been societally conditioned for 30 to 50 years or so, depending on when you want to theorize that it started. Um, and I do think there's so much beauty in the heart, and men have such tender hearts and they're so strong. And like I see this again and again and again when I work with men, is that there's such a deep tenderness there. Like that's the only word that really resonates for me in my like lived experience with working with men in their deepest, like most beautiful open place. And for me, that tenderness can be taken and it can be made into like an alloy. Like you can add iron into it, and it can become like this beautiful, strong, tender heart. And the cock, like it is a barometer. Like the cock is such a strong barometer. It will guide you when it can be fully listened to, fully clarified and purified, and it will do what it needs to do to communicate. Like anytime I'm with a man that has erectile dysfunction or tends to lose erection whenever or get erections more often than they would prefer or whatever is happening, I'm always like, okay, the cock is trying to communicate with you and you're not listening.
Ah, yeah.
And the most often, I don't want to destroy any relationships with this, but I won't say most often, pretty often when we get right down to it, there is a knowing, a gnosis that they're having sex with people that they shouldn't be, but they don't want to know that. They know it on a subconscious level, but they don't want to know it. And so the cock starts communicating to them and for them. And so once they're able to, and it's the same for women, like it's the same for women. We have this beautiful opportunity to be connected throughout the body, these centers. And so often we override, we say yes when we mean no, we say no when we mean yes, or we say maybe, or we say I guess, or we don't honor what the mind body is saying. And over time we lose that connection, or the connection becomes more distant. It never goes away. You can't lose it to where it will never come back. It just gets quieter and quieter.
I love this.
Yeah,
I had not
me too.
considered, and it makes perfect sense that erectile dysfunction, for example, this is getting into the world of intuition. See, in my mind, the head and the heart are derivative. Excuse me, the head
Mm-hmm.
and the intellect are derivative.
Mm-hmm.
The heart knows. The cock, it seems, embodied wisdom knows.
Mm-hmm.
And I had arguably an experience. I left this out of the book, but early
Ooh,
on,
we're getting authentic content right now.
we're getting
Never before heard.
that's its own interesting question. I've had so many moments where I was like, I should add that into the narrative because that's relevant and it changed the texture and the shape of how we were relating in that moment. And then I realized, no, actually, this is a story. I'm writing a story
Mm.
for a particular reason. And that was why this book was 120 Google Doc pages and the last one was 360. Was like, no,
Yeah.
I've got to put everything in there so that everybody has the absolute perfect, complete perspective and truth. Otherwise, they won't see how much I love her still, or where she was operating from with charity and
Yeah.
compassion. And but one of the things I left out was early on in my sexual friendship with this person before we entered into a partnership. Um, I got inexplicable, excruciating pain, unlike I had ever experienced in my
Mm.
entire life, for weeks in my left shoulder and upper arm.
Mm.
And in sacred body language translations, which is a modality I have been equipped with that enables me to interpret what is the body saying,
Yep.
that part of the body, when it's in pain, is talking about there's a burden or there's a responsibility on the shoulder,
Uh-huh.
or a difficulty in handling on the side of the feminine. So this is
Yeah.
the whole
Mm.
feminine. And initially, what I thought was, oh, obviously, I'm just not supposed to have sex with this woman. Like, like I'm
Yeah.
taking on, the energetics of a person that I'm not supposed to be with. But as I look back, I realize, oh, no, it was a warning. It was a warning that I am taking on the burden. I am shouldering the burden and the responsibility of handling and managing her karma. Because it was the outside, it wasn't the inside. So the
Yeah.
inside of the arm and the outside have different meanings. So
Mhm.
it was like outward facing. And I did for years almost. And like as I look back, because I'm like actually recently reviewing content that I had
Yeah.
created with her, a course that I delivered to her with a dear friend and colleague. And I look back and I think, man, it was not my, I did what I did and I didn't do what I didn't do, and it was perfect,
Yeah.
but it was also not my responsibility. And
Yeah.
insofar as I took responsibility, I taught her to people please and give me back cookies of, oh, I'm getting the gift.
Mm.
I'm getting the training and I'm doing the right thing. When in fact, left to herself, she would have had a different path of development.
Mm. Similar to your mind utilizing your cock to meet the needs of your heart.
Yes. How so? I can begin to step in that.
Meaning, meaning there's like an indirect request. So you're consenting to take on a burden so that you can get the cookies.
Hmm. Yeah. And so this is interesting, right? Because my head and I'll say this now, I absolutely vote victory and have nothing but the deepest love for Sally, she's called in this book, or Chris in the previous one, or Sunny in the prequel to the prequel. Um, and I would have these wobbling spinouts in my head where I would have this experience of like, yeah, she's responsive sexually, but she doesn't look the way that I want her to look. Like I believe I'm settling. And then I would argue myself out of that and say, no, 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 this is it and it is perfect. And anything that draws me out of the present experience of love and connection and touch that I'm here to receive, like, oh, it's the ego, and we should just let it go. And that's
Mhm.
a place that I get to in the book is like, there was a moment when we were living together at the village in Earthwaking in Costa Rica, me and this recent partner, when all of my preferences went silent.
Mm.
And I said, all right, these were programming from the ego and society. I can just be with what is and enjoy it and love it. And will you marry me? And she said, yes.
Mm.
And then eventually took it back. Um, Still living with her ex-husband and still raising her two kids, not wanting to wrestle those tigers in the ways that
Yeah.
they're kind of pushing for. But long story short, my point is, bottom line is, um, it's the disintegration between the mind, like left to myself outside of the transformational modality and community that was reinforcing this sense of like, just don't listen to your mind,
Mhm.
turn your mind off, and just turn your attention on your cock completely off.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm looking back and I'm applying your distinction to it. And I'm seeing, all right, well, I was fully heart bodied, but
Yeah.
I wasn't cock bodied or mind bodied,
Mhm.
which is my way of trying to contribute to the development of your distinction is like somebody may
Yeah.
be on a gradient scale of integrating and activating these various parts and have
Mhm.
awareness of them, but they're still not in harmonious, full, complete
Right.
resonance.
Right. And in going into the kind of the simplicity of it, and beyond that, there's complexity because our mind is an amazing computer program, and it runs the programs that it knows how to run at the keystrokes that it knows very well. So it'll get a keystroke, it'll run a program, and that's our thoughts day to day most of the time. Um, there's a quote, the mind makes I'm going to butcher it, but the mind makes a great servant, but not a great master.
It's a great place,
Because
terrible place to
yeah,
live. Yeah.
well, it's beautiful for what it can do, but we oftentimes allow it to do too much. And especially when we're on the self-development path, and we're really looking at these like deep dark things in our past and in our psyches and everything, we can get to a place where we are so over analyzing.
Yeah.
Like we can't ever take off that lab coat and put down the clipboard and just be in a moment. And there's such powerful impact that can come from that practice of, can you just be in the moment? Like this moment that you describe, all my preferences just dissipated. And that is a really beautiful place to be. And it sounds like there was maybe in that moment that relief and that like, oh, like my mind chatter is finally stopped. Like I let it go. And there was maybe like a pendulation. I don't know, you would have to speak to that, of like the relief of it was almost intoxicating, as it sounds like.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I had this whole community behind me, pointing me in one direction.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just happy. And I was just like, I loved her, and that was enough. And God has given her to me to steward her. And that's part of the purpose of my life. It's part of the texture of why I'm here. That was what I was standing in. And and then when I left the village, when she left the village, we didn't have the community to vouchsafe that meaning anymore,
Yeah.
and or to protect it, or to support it. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I because to listen to the mind or to listen to the cock on its own, completely on its own, is hell.
Mm.
Is
Yeah.
absolute hell. And I spent years in that, waffling and wobbling and wavering. And in relationship, like having moments that were pristine and perfect.
Yeah.
And just like, so in one taste, one of the leaders, he once told me, "You're trying to feed a beast that will never be satisfied." And I think that's true for most men in sex. I think the more I think most men are biased by programming and this image of being the stud or the Casanova, and they're
Mm.
wounded by trauma where they didn't get what they wanted from their parents to such a degree that if they were to follow the path that Neil Strauss follows in The Game, Penetrating the Secret Society of Pickup Artists, great book, that they'll end up in the same place he ends up in the next book, The Truth, an
Yeah.
uncomfortable book about relationships, where he's cheating on his partner because he thinks his sex is so important that he has to
Mm.
report his heart.
Yeah.
And so who does he become at the end of that? But well, spoiler alert, he does the work to integrate and to heal his heart. And then his heart's desires are so much fucking simpler.
Yeah.
So another one of my teachers, Steve Maeda, my first authenticity-based seduction and dating coach, he's like,
Mm.
be you. And here's the structure to be you. Here's a channel for expressing you. And you deserve sex and love and connection as your birthright. Go get it. He would say that there's this, like, we over pendulate in the direction of thinking we want something when we haven't had it.
Mm.
And so
Yeah.
then our desires become this magnification based on an imbalance. And then the only real way to work those out of our system is to go balls to the wall, pursue the desires, and then get fucking burned by them. I did. I had more sex with more women than most men will statistically in their lives. And was it fulfilling? Yeah, it was fun, a lot.
Yeah.
But my heart was eventually made itself known underneath and was like, no, this you could play on this merry-go-round forever and it will take you nowhere. So I had to upgrade my desires. And now, yeah, it's like this. I mean, what you witnessed just now was a little bit of heartbreak over all the work that it took to open my heart to the possibility of a perfect moment and to say, all
Mm.
right, I will discipline my cock for the sake of this woman.
Mm.
I will let go of my head's protestations for the sake of this woman. And then for whatever reason at the time, she was unable to reciprocate. She took back her yes to being married, and then I allowed her doubt in where we were going to turn into my doubt. And then I started wobbling. And what every woman I believe most wants is a man who knows that she is her queen. She's his queen. There it is. Like he has no drop of uncertainty. He's absolutely clear, confident, and grounded in who she is for him. And I had this for her even after she said no to marrying me. Like I was like, all right, well, you'll be my not wife, because my wife will have the kid and you don't want to have another kid. You'll be my poly partner. And she's like, all right, it's heartbreaking that I can't have your kid, but I'll go there with you because I had clarity and certainty. And yet, I don't think the clarity and certainty is going to come from our body by itself. I think it's going to come from intuition, ultimately God, divinity, spirit, source. And I believe we exist in a universe, and I know that I'm almost done. Thank you. I didn't know, because what's at stake here is human connection and intimacy.
Yeah.
What's at stake is like if somebody's fulfilled and nourished by a family, truly by their wife, then they're not going to hunt for someone else. They're not going to cheat on their wife and destroy their marriage and their children's upbringing for that sake. And then if everybody's operating from there, then a whole society stabilizes in a way that 70% of marriages ending in divorce cannot do. So yeah, I'm just I don't think that the ego or the mind and the cock are bankrupt. I think
No.
that where I've been led to is this place where I have so much skepticism over just listening to my cock.
Yeah.
I have so much skepticism over just listening to my head that I personally do my best as a safeguard, as a check and balance to those overpendulations. I prioritize my heart.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that I don't still have moments where I'm fantasizing about this new woman that I met and like, oh, I just want to fuck her. Be awesome. Like, so anyway, I'm I've
Well,
talked a lot. Thank you for listening.
my pleasure. That was beautiful. The story and the I have many there were moments of what you said where I wanted to kind of pull at the threads to see actually like like my intuition, my spidey senses
I'm all
is
ears.
going on.
Half the fun
Um
of these calls is me being the guinea pig for my people and seeing things get worked on in the way they might. So you have free reign wherever you feel guided.
um what I find with the men that I work with is that when they can get to that place of like true deep, like purified cock confidence,
Mm.
um the cock is often much more discerning than the heart or the head combined.
Hmm.
Like, and that's why I say the cock is a barometer, because if like I think your overall point was that you operate heart forward. Like your heart is your first kind of checks and balances. And if your heart's not a yes, then we're a no. But the feedback I get from my clients as they kind of complete work with me,
Hmm.
whether that's longer term or a deep immersion or something like that. So when they go out into the world and dating, their cock is the thing that discerns the most, um, with the most clarity, because they can be sitting across from a woman and just drop in, and I teach them how to do this. Just drop down to the pelvis and be like, cock, what do you got? What do I need to see? What am I not seeing? What do I see and I'm overriding? Like, what's going on here? And the cop will answer like, this is a no. This connection is a no. And it can be like textually, can be contextually perfect. She can be beautiful, she can be sexy, she can be willing, she can be putting out, she can be all the things. And the cock has such wisdom and there's such beauty there. And when the man learns that honoring that answer is the thing that moves the needle toward what they actually desire more than almost anything else,
Mm.
then there's no question in their mind whether they follow that discernment. They're still at choice, of course. They can override what they know. They can override their gnosis, obviously. But they know that when they do that, if they choose to do that, there are consequences that they're going to have to accept, and they never do. Like truly, like I've even had some of my previous clients, because I allow them to reach out to me if they need like a quick tune up or something. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like my brain, my heart, my cock is all over the place. Can you help me get some clarity? I'm always happy to do that. Um, and when they sometimes when they do that, they realize that they are trying to make something work that doesn't, because it fits in the old pattern. It fits in what may be familiar, and so there's like a certain resonance in there of familiarity. But when I can bring them to some clarity, when they can bring themselves to the present moment and get current with their with the way that their body feels, the way that what their mind is saying and their heart is saying, when they can get current, there's a realization that actually that all I feel is familiarity and
Mm.
like a pull towards that, but it's not actually where I want to be anymore. So it can become like, yeah, it's the most potent barometer in my experience with the men that I've worked with.
Mm. It's fascinating to me. And I'm open to the possibility that that is the truth of
Mhm.
masculinity, of male-bodied souls journeying on
Yeah.
this planet is like we're given intuition in many forms. And each
Hmm.
person has a different intuition map, but obviously the embodied like erection, no erection kind of and or, whatever the felt sense is would be
Yeah.
strong, useful.
Yeah.
Um, So then it leads me to be curious because I think I've experienced that. In
Hmm.
fact, this conversation is unveiling some things to go to one of my coaches with.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Beautiful.
it. That's how powerful this is. The distinction is. I love it. Um, and I think to myself, well, if the nervous system were completely debugged and devoided of trauma or released enough of the layers,
Hmm.
then potentially the cock would be clear. But I would start by assuming that if somebody's in front of me and they don't have everything that they want, that there's probably blocks there to start.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you um reach a certain level of cock coherence and you're done for the rest of your life. It's a never ending process. You'll just get deeper and deeper and deeper. It become what I promise my the men and women that I work with is that I will help you get muscle memory.
Huh.
So I'm going to teach you how to do this so that this can be a continual process and purification through the rest of your life. And you won't have to keep checking in with me because you'll have a somatic knowing of what it feels like, what a cock yes feels like, and what a cock no feels like. And once you're able to discern that and feel what it feels in your body, that's going to guide you. And like a little GPS, like rerouting, you're going to be guided through what kind of people to connect with. I've had clients who've had really beautiful business dealings come out because they're able in the middle of a business meeting, a merger, a acquisition, a contract that's about to be signed, a house that they're going to buy, anything, they're able to drop into cock and be like, is there anything that I'm missing here? Are we all yes?
Yeah.
And to trust it.
You're teaching a profound life skill.
It is life skill. I just love sex and intimacy. So that's where I focus on it, but do with it what you will.
Oh, so good. So important, so impactful. Because obviously the philosopher in me is going to poke at and get curious around the simplicity of the head, heart, cock harmony distinction and the coherence.
Yeah.
Um, personally, I see a friend of mine said recently, oh, it I made a casual comment. I'm sorry, I keep starting this story over and over. I finally found where I'm going to start the story. On a medicine journey recently, and my heart
Mhm.
was just blown open. The next day, I was in line at Third Eye Tonic.
Mhm.
It's a little coffee cacao place, and this beautiful woman in front of me is ordering and waiting, and she turns around and we start talking. I find out her name is Samadhi,
Mhm.
and within a couple seconds of seeing that she's got dreads, I'm like, oh, I can't. No, that's because it reminds me of the former partner.
Oh, yeah.
And so she was really into me. Like she touched me, and I was like, 5, 10 minutes later, even though I'm not dating, I'm still connecting. I'm still
Yeah.
allowing connection with the feminine.
Mhm.
And a couple minutes later, I was like, I could have asked for her number. Like I could have a new connection with a woman. And so in my case, I readily admit it's hygiene.
Mhm.
Emotional, energetic, romantic hygiene. And it breaks my heart to see people from time to time like they have a painful breakup and then they aren't tracking what is going on that obscures the wisdom of their heart, their cock, or their head.
Mhm.
And so then this wide open space of possibility becomes covered over by all these things that happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're no longer a choice.
Well, actually, choice, freedom of choice, liberation of choice is one of my very favorite topics to work with people around because the lack of liberation of choice is such an unconscious thing that we carry around. We and so it's a wealth of possibility, but we go through life thinking that we're free. But we have all of these unconscious processing, and we have this conditioning, and oh, she has dreads, so I wouldn't want to connect with her because it might remind me of blah 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 that caused me pain. Um, when you can go, so there's another side of this coin. So to me, in my own journey, in the journey that I work with my clients on, there's this side that we've been discussing, which is finding your yes. And it's like a discerning yes. Like how can I elevate my yes to where my entire like power structure in my body is all on board. I'm not having to repress anything. I'm not having to like lobotomize any parts of my brain or my heart in order for this to work.
Mhm.
So that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is like this really beautiful, like juicy, the image in my head is like a juicy pomegranate. It's like this deep shadow work around why are you holding all of the preferences that you're holding?
Ah,
Because we collect as we go along from early childhood, we collect all of these different preferences. We enter into and end relationships, we connect and we disconnect. We have somebody say this thing over here, and then someone else says this thing, and we were like, oh, I like that one, but I don't like that one. And we collect all of these preferences, and what they end up doing is building a jail around us
mhm,
because we're like, things have to be a certain way for me to be happy.
mhm.
And if they're not that way, then I'm not going to be happy. And this can go, I mean, I'm sure you've met people who really enjoy being grumpy,
Yes.
and any excuse will do, like anything. They don't need a whole lot to be
We got
grumpy.
a
They just,
problem for every solution.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but what I really love working with people, and this has been probably the most life-changing part of my journey so far, is is discerning my yes and my no, and full being able to fully own those verbally, like actually be able to say no to somebody who wants something from me and be grounded and centered. And then moving to this other side of this shadow work of like getting rid of all of my yeses and my nos,
Mhm.
or at least taking them, and every time I feel them, I look at it. Like I like condense it down into this little rock, and I just turn it all over, especially my nose. Because I might say, this person can't talk to me like that. That's a no for me. And that sounds like a boundary. And there's so much, there's like a reverence for boundaries right now in the like self-development, and especially new age kind of group. There's a reverencing of boundaries, like, oh, you have to have boundaries, like this happened because you didn't have boundaries. Whereas I'm like, actually all of your boundaries are kind of just keeping you in a cage of limited experience. So if you can take that, no, you can't talk to me like that, and I condense it down and I look at it a little bit, I'm like, why can't he talk to me like that? Like, okay, if he talks to me like that, I feel this way. Okay, do I have a choice there?
Huh.
And what is my choice? My choice is I can choose a different way to feel, because and the proof I have of that is that I can have a friend over and it starts raining outside, and I will be like, oh my God, it's raining. I love when it rains. Thunderstorms, like, oh, I love it. Like loud thunder, like it nourishes my soul. And then my friend sitting on the couch would be like, oh, I hate it when it rains. We're both human, and the feelings are legitimate. And so what that tells me is that as a human species, I have capacity to feel I don't like rain, and I have the capacity to feel I love rain. So in these moments where we have these no's come up of this thing can't be happening, or I will feel XYZ, I know, because I have worked very deeply on maintaining the suppleness of my psyche and my somatic experience, that I can choose. And not only can I choose, I as Amber, my own personal facilitator, I will intentionally put myself in spaces with people as practice with other practitioners, to practice almost like a gym, so that I can ask them, I'm like, okay, I need you to be this type of energy for me, because that usually sends me down a very specific road, a very specific synaptic pathway. So like the emotions, the thoughts, the stories, they're very well trodden. The ruts are deep.
Huh.
So I need you to do that for me right now. And I'm going to choose to orient around it as if it's pleasurable, because I don't want to have to go down that road. So right now I'm going to practice. I'm going to like work this little muscle until it becomes stronger and more accessible to me. And what that practice does over time, and this is like this is a big practice. Like it can be very multifaceted, and it can be a lot of fun once you release your need to be perfect at it. It can be a lot of fun. But it brings this like deeper level of like assuredness and like groundedness, and like especially those masculine traits of being grounded no matter what's going on the outside. And then it's you're able to be in this almost otherworldly level of self-responsibility, like radical responsibility. You are able to take full responsibility for your inner landscape. And that doesn't mean that you can't have preferences. Like when you're releasing all of these no's, like these, like certain people have to treat me in certain ways, and that's the only way I'm going to be happy. When you can fully release all of that, you there's a liberation that you find, and then you can bring back your preferences. So it's not an excuse to tolerate abuse. It's about releasing the attachment, and then if that negative preference comes in, if the thing that you don't want does come into your field, you have the choice to play with it like a cat. Like I think of like a cat toy. Like you can play with it and see kind of what arises within you, what arises within them. And that's just more data for yourself. Or you can say, this isn't really something that I want to play with. I'm going to separate myself from this person. And you no longer have to you no longer expect them to behave in a certain way, because they get to be whoever they are. And then you choose from you, like you choose from your own authority and sovereignty, truly, like more than just like the surface level words that we say, oh, sovereignty, autonomy, like we truly on a deep level have no idea what that actually means, to take full responsibility for yourself, because we're unaware of the capacity we have to take responsibility for ourselves. We think we are, but usually we're not.
Magical. I mean, it's one thing in earth waking, in my training that I've received, we have this idea of and I love that. So
Mhm.
my mom has eye problems, and I love that. My car
Mhm.
broke down, and I love that.
Yeah.
It's strange because it's like I will own and choose to prefer whatever is. Whatever is, I will choose to love
Mhm.
it. So that's like a downstream thing after the fact. What you're pointing to is more of a like, I will restore myself to the primal capacity to be with to actually take pleasure in whatever is,
Mhm.
free of whatever programming and trauma led to the preference that I think I have.
Right. And it doesn't have to be pleasure. Like we might, depending on upbringing and conditioning, we may get pleasure like in a kinkified way. We may get pleasure from abuse. Like we may even like do mental gymnastics enough to where we poke the bear. Like if we're in partnership, we poke the bear until they get mad at us because that gives us a pleasure. And so other aspects of this same work, just working on the suppleness of the internal landscape and react like activations, is that if you're like, I don't actually want to be in a partnership where somebody yells at me.
Hmm.
And I can see that I'm actually magnetizing that in because I have a certain synaptic pathway that wants to be maintained.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to call people in that will fill that role for me. But with this work of really analyzing the yes and the no, um, you can come to a place where you can look at that and be like, actually, that's not truly what I want. I actually want a deeply nourishing relationship where we're able to speak to each other kindly and with respect. But until I see to this internal part of me that seeks or that gets pleasure, like gets off on a man being angry at me, I'm not going to be able to do that. Like, I'm not going to align to that. And so then you do the practice of, okay, I know I feel pleasure from this, but I actually want to tap into and see if there's any like latent anger or latent rage. That when I feel this anger pointed at me, there was like my very young self maybe made it pleasurable, or I learned to make it pleasurable over time so I could survive. But I'm actually going to peel that layer off that I used as a survival mechanism, and I'm going to look at what's underneath. And that doesn't mean, like, again, this, and it gets kind of complicated, but it doesn't mean that in a kink scene, you can't work with that energy of like domination. It doesn't mean that. It's more what I'm pointing at is that you come back to a place of neutrality so you don't have to.
Mhm.
You don't have to have that. Like going back to the heart cock mind coherence, um, the sexual synapses are so powerful. The reproductive synapses are incredibly powerful. So when a man will often have sex the same way over and over and over and over, and oftentimes it's reflected in the way that he self pleasures. So if it's just like fast and furious and then orgasm, that's often reflected in the ways that he will have sex with a partner. And that's just because the ruts are really deep with those synapses. So working with that and bringing in practices where you no longer allow the body to go down that pathway and solidify and validate that pathway over and over, you bring other ways, other methods, and other tactics. So you bring the heart online, but that doesn't mean that a quickie, like a future quickie, is never going to happen. Like, of course, sex is play, like open up to all the possibilities of play. But what it means is that you bring yourself around, you integrate parts of yourself so that you are truly at choice rather than pretending you're at choice, but actually you're locked in.
Yeah, the net vector that the momentum of familiarity and repetition points people in. It's so strong that they aren't at choice
Nope.
until they become so. Yeah.
Very, 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 it's very rare to find somebody that has done adequate enough work to be truly a choice. Because even in like the new age kind of communities where liberation is like the basis of the work that they do together and everything that's taught, you are still often expected to show up a certain way. Like your liberation takes a certain flavor, even down to the ways you dress and express yourself. Like those are expectations. We're a tribal species, like it's to be expected. This isn't new. We're it's always existed. But really being able to see and look at, why are we doing it this way? Are we truly at choice? Is all of me deeply welcome here? And how do I myself kind of start to court and dance with all those different sides of me? And how do I integrate? And this all this really is an extrapolation from what we were originally talking about. The mind, heart, cock, coherence. This is just different facets of all of those things. So like what flavors of expression exist in my cock? And then they're going to be different. Like it's not going to just be one thing. What flavors of expression exist in my heart? What flavors of expression exist in my mind? Like, and this beautiful exploration that we get to have when we have that muscle memory.
Yeah, so that opens up a whole new realm of conversation as well. That I would love to go into, but I think we're gonna have to cliffhanger for our people. Um, and I'll use myself as an example. I chased ass and took names, apparently. Look at my erotic poetry book. Um, for years, and it was an imbalance. It took me out of alignment in my life, and it really damaged my life.
Yeah.
I mean, it was new and different. It was great compared to the sexless, suppressed Catholic has nothing.
Mhm.
But in retrospect, it was very driven in a direction that it wasn't supportive of my highest choices. And so now, even in partnership, while I aspire to my highest choice, you might also say I'm haunted by the memory of Casanova, the experiences
Mhm.
from that realm, to where um, our mind's attempts to generate a standard or a pathway
Mhm.
themselves be overpendulated. So I look at myself and I'm like, all right, so how much of that monogamous thing was given to us by earthwaking and the crypto Gnostic Christianity practice there
Mhm.
as a new norm that's just the thing, regardless of who gets cookie cuttered into place by it or straitjacketed by it, like, oh,
Mhm.
you've got to be this way. And then I also look back and I say, okay, well, rambunctious, reckless, casual, in all directions sexual expression is obviously not the answer. Like just
Mhm.
listen to whatever the cock tells you. Um, and at the same time, I'm distinguishing in myself, like if you're organically open to this process and this practice of head, heart, cock, then you don't know what the answer will be. You can't predict or assume what the answer will be. Even 10 years into a marriage that was otherwise super satisfying,
Mhm.
and you may get an answer that you don't expect and maybe don't even like.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the cock is no longer getting what it needs or what it wants from this woman. Otherwise, in all aspects, perfect. So, yeah.
I'm curious when you deeply consider the possibility of um like a conscious um dedicated committed relationship with a woman that you deeply love, when you consider that, what does cock say?
Strange question. I don't get a clear answer, but then my mind is pretty loud. So, um, yeah, no clear answer. For me,
Yeah.
cock intelligence lives as a reaction to the perception of a proximate possibility of sexual engagement. Like that's when it gets loud and obvious and evident.
I wonder, and this is without being able to like deeply, deepen in with you and have you actually go to that meditative space where you're in the lived or the perceived reality of that type of relationship. Um, I wonder if there's like a fear of sacrifice. Like I have to choose one or the other. I can choose this deep, beautiful relationship, or I can choose sexual satisfaction.
Well, I'll tell you how it lives on my list of ideal partner characteristics.
Uh-huh.
I know is the mind answering, but could point to something. Uh,
Hmm.
she's absolutely 100% willing to go to the deepest depths of monogamy with me
Hmm.
and conscious, intimate connection just between us as if there's no one else. But
Hmm.
she's also open to there being a polyamorous door that can be opened later on someday. If she doesn't have
Mm.
both of those, she's not my wife.
So I'm curious what I would be curious. So the invitation that I would give you would be to um like look at like take these things like, okay, I have this beautiful image of a relationship, and there's this part of me that wants that like that cellar door of polyamory over there to always be unlocked. Like I want it there. If you were to really deepen in and take that out, like just we're cementing over the cellar door. If you were to do that, like looking at what happens in your body and looking at what what activates in there. And my suspicion or the feeling that I'm getting in my body is that there is that fear of sacrifice. Like if I completely devote myself to this woman, um monogamous and all, like deep devotion, deep commitment, fidelity, all of the things. If I do that, I am sacrificing another part of myself that was such a nourishing part of me.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't the only thing, but it was a very nourishing part.
It still
Um,
is.
and
Yeah.
and then my question would be, um, why in your ideal, and this is just for you to consider, why in your ideal woman would you suspect or expect that she wouldn't be able to fulfill you completely sexually? And is that conditioning? Is that maybe mistrust of the feminine? Is that um, your own, like you're like not fully owning your own erotic nature? And so your assumption is that she won't either. I'm just curious.
So, yeah, the potential answers and then the complexity of the question overwhelms my
Yeah.
capacity to track in an efficient way. So, and this will be one of our last thoughts. And then if you've got something that'll be a great next step for our people, I want to hear it because I'm sure
Yeah.
they do too by now. Um, and that was not JFK trying to misdirect from the question. I'm engaging direct. Um, because that's what he would do in press interviews. He'd make a joke
Yeah.
and then he'd come up with his answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's fear of betraying a part of me that's so special and precious. There's fear of the feminine not matching me there. The past 3 women who said yes to marrying me in the past 5 years all came back with a no eventually for whatever reason. And so like
Mhm.
you want me all in, but you're not all in. Like I
Mhm.
don't it would take a lot for a woman to pry that expression and desire from me, even if she
Yeah.
was perfect in all aspects. And yeah, I don't think I've fully owned my complete erotic nature. No, I don't. Um I have told myself for the past since like 2016, actually, it goes further than 5 years, that oh, if I meet the right person and I'm monogamous with her, then perhaps I will be satisfied enough by that, and I can uncover that as an experience in
Mhm.
my future.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, but then again, none of these relationships went past the evolutionary biological honeymoon period of 3 years. So there's
Yeah.
there's really no way to determine with any grounding and empirical evidence that it's a wise choice. At least that's where my head and my heart go. Yeah.
Well, you have the evidence that you have, and beyond that, it has to be um in certain ways faith. Like there has to be a faith, and part of that faith is defined and nourished by your own practice of fully owning that erotic part of you, like the Casanova. And there's some language that you've used through our conversations, especially today. You mentioned, I'm going to discipline my cock for the sake of this relationship. And I was like, like, why are we disciplining? And I know that's a little bit off the subject,
Oh,
but
it's good. I mean, I'm haunted by the echo of Casanova, and I don't
Mhm.
know that I've ever completed the journey of sowing your wild oats, quote unquote, that allegedly some men do. Like I have an experience of, well, I was harmed and burned by listening to that. So fuck, like basically fuck you, go sit down in a corner. I cannot allow you to run my life. Like
Well,
that's
in the work that I do with men, especially in my immersions, which are one-on-one in person, um, that's that like the marrying of the primal and the heart. I call it heart-led primal. Um, that marriage, that bringing together of what is almost always very separate, is a basis of the work, because what you're saying, what you're pointing to, is something that so many men carry. I deeply want to be in devoted partnership, and I don't know if I will ever be met sexually. And I will be like, in my experience with working with women, the women are coming to this same conclusion, and they're holding this same fear. I want to be devoted. Like I have this beautiful devotional heart. I want to be devoted to a masculine. And especially as I get older and biology does what biology does, and the feminine libido increases over time, they're like, I deeply want to be met in my sexuality. And I honestly can't find men who can meet me there in both heart and eroticism. And so we are all doing this work. Like it's all in the field, it's all active in the collective right now. And what I like to do, like my dharmic path, I guess, is to be a strong feminine influence, an initiator into the men being able to hold that frequency of heart-centered primal, so that they can align themselves with women who can do the same.
well, how do people find out more about this immersion that you do? Where do we find you?
Yeah, I'm mostly on Facebook, just Amber Kelly. I'm sure you'll put some of the information in the show notes or however that works. Um, And then just reaching out to me through Messenger or commenting on my stuff. There is an application process for the immersion because I want to be able to maximize the time that we have. It's usually between 2 and 3 days that it's a deep dive. It's a pivotal, it's a life pivot, 100%. So it's 2 to 3 days, one-on-one, in person, doing practices, tantric, breath work, somatic, intellectual, shamanic, all of the things, utilizing all of the tools that I've collected and that's worked for me, and what I'm able to channel for the individual man once we are sharing space. And then we dive really deep. We don't go searching for dragons, but they almost always come up. So we deal with them as they come. And the men that have done my immersions leave different. They leave completely different men, and they have completely different relationships after.
Amazing.
Mm.
I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so honored to share you with my people and for the wisdom I personally have gleaned in this conversation. Any
I
closing thoughts?
appreciate you.
Yeah,
Mm.
you're welcome. Yeah.
I think the thing I want men to know the most is that it's possible.
Hmm.
Like the thing that you think you can't even ask for, it's too vulnerable to ask for. It's too much. It's on the edge of me being able to even look at it.
Hmm.
Like the thing that you think you can't have is well within the realm of creation. And there's a process, there's an initiation that that you're invited to. And in the mythology, the priestess was often the one who held the codes for the initiation. Priestessing is a little different in the modern age, but if I don't have to be the catalyst, of course, but if I can be the catalyst for a man to open up to what he never thought he could have or ask for, um, I can't imagine a better way to spend my time in the mortal realm.
On which note, thanks for being you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, yeah, I see that. I see that too. Um, so thank you all for listening. Please like, share, subscribe, follow Amber, and
Mm,
make love easy, y'all.
yeah.